CenturyLink has just opened up their level 3 facilities throughout the United States, including down here, to be able to sell Fiber Plus, which is their version of ABF. So some locations where you can't get AT&T, which would obviously be the first preference, it's worth taking a look at and see if you can get Fiber Plus as a alternative to maybe a cable product if the cable carrier, Comcast, is either not there today or unwilling to go there unless without passing on $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, $8,000 with the construction charges to your end user customer. So that's fiber. Broadband. Broadband's cable. We've got just about every cable provider in our portfolio in the United States. In fact, I can't really think of one we can't resell. DSL, you know, again, we're back to that concept of the customers looking for primary, secondary, potentially tertiary access. You know, ideally you want Ethernet fiber as your primary. You're looking at cable broadband potentially as your secondary. You might be looking at DSL as your tertiary. Where do we come in? Well, what if you're in South Florida, or you're in Tampa, or you're in Atlanta? AT&T's the LEC or Frontier's the LEC, and I need somebody else to provide the fiber because I already know I can't get cable, and I need to rely upon that DSL product for the backup services. Well, you know, again, being an aggregator with our portfolio, I might be able to get you Crown Castle, I might be able to get you Atlantic Broadband, I might be able to get you someone like a TPX or something like that, an XO. Wireless is another thing. 4G now turning into 5G. We can sell it, satellite, Viasat's our product, fixed wireless. We've got a bunch of fixed wireless nationwide broadband contracts that we just rolled out in the last 18 months. For you partners in the room, all this pays a 2X. That's the spiff. It's a 2X. Okay? Next slide. Overlay services, UCaaS. So like everybody else, we've got a UCaaS product. I will tell you real quickly, out of respect to everybody else in the room, the one differentiator we bring to the marketplace of UCaaS, actually there's two. We are one of the few carriers that still does a white glove install. So we will dispatch a tech, we will deploy that Ubiquiti Edge device, and that tech will pen up a VLAN. We use VLAN 20, and our preference is actually to be able to sell the managed switches as well. Layer 2 or Layer 3 Ubiquiti switch is what we use. We're predominantly a Polycom shop because we operate a Metaswitch platform. We do not operate BroadSoft. BroadSoft obviously plays a little bit nicer with Cisco than what Meta does, so we're predominantly Polycom. That is a 4X. That's what we pay on our UCaaS seats, okay? IP voice. Now we're back to our Metaswitch platform, back to our CLIC kind of vertical. We're selling IP pots, we're selling SIP trunks, and we're selling PRI. Easiest way I can equivocate the difference between our IP pots and say how the cable providers do it. The cable providers typically deliver it over their cable modem. We again are going to dispatch a tech, do a white glove install, put a Cisco IAD in the wall, pen up a VLAN, and then break the channels out from there. Our IP POTS lines are $14.99 on a measure rate plan, or $19.99 unlimited. They pay a 3X. SIP trunks, same thing, $9.99 or measured rate, $19.99 unlimited. They also pay a 3X. PRIs, nationwide PRI, we're $90. So by the time you add the fees and surcharges, that we're $120. And the TCG folks in the room will tell you. A lot of the partners they manage nationwide, and some of you in this room have asked me to do this. Can we mark it up? It's too cheap. Sure, absolutely we can. Collaboration, contact center. Contact center, we're partnered with Telex. Kind of an expensive solution, but nonetheless for the right customer. Collaboration, we've developed a session program, which is basically an iPhone app, Google app, that incorporates some of the components of Zoom, some of the components of WebEx, and that's what we sell with our UCaaS. SD-WAN, I mentioned earlier, VeloCloud. Interesting sidebar about VeloCloud. We met with them a couple weeks ago at our sales kickoff meetings on the west coast of Florida, and we're very proud to find out that we were their fastest growing carrier resale relationship last year in 2019. We literally stood up several thousand boxes last year with VeloCloud. And then security. Security's the last piece of this. We've always been a Cisco shop. We've started to go down the road with Palo Alto and started deploying Palo Alto a couple weeks ago. In particular, in conjunction with our SD-WAN play, we're burning it into our VeloCloud devices. And then at the network level, it's Alien Vault. So last piece for this thing here, our managed services. You know, kind of went into most of this already, but just kind of touching base on the buckets. There's the managed voice, which is really our CLEC piece. There's the managed WAN, which is kind of collaboration between our aggregation side and our CLEC side of the business. The managed firewall, the managed security is either network-based or appliance-based. We can pretty much touch just about every customer, just about every place in the country. Okay. Real quick before we get to Q&A, case study. Here, I'll flick through this real quick. This is worth showing. So, everybody knows who Dan Patrick is, right? ESPN sports fan, Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick shows a customer of ours, and for those of us, I'm going to show my longevity in this business. They came to us and wanted BRIs. You guys remember BRIs? ISDN BRIs? True story. They wanted BRIs. So we did some digging, and we're able to find that we were able to acquire some resold LEC-based BRIs, and then we delivered some voice services over the top of it. And we delivered some managed WAN over the top of it with the SD-WAN, so we can ensure QoS. And the funny thing about it is that the it was during the Super Bowl. He had yet to come down here for the his Super Bowl party. He hosted a party at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I want to say it was Lawrence Taylor that called in, and they lost connectivity. And everybody in the office, Dan Patrick kind of plays up in their corporate office in some of the in the back of the stock room. Somebody came running out of the office saying, "Oh my God, Dan Patrick's, they're down hard." Our engineers, which is one of our NOC facilities, is there as well. They were looking at the network like, no, they're not down hard. They just don't have power. And somebody had kicked the cord in there. But needless to say, it was kind of a brief moment of trepidation for us because we had just turned them up, and everybody was kind of listening to it. And the next thing you know, they're down. But in reality, it had to do with no power. So. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have treasure opportunities, or is it in plans?
Very good question. So here's the thing. We're not big enough, just to be honest with you, that we really get into a situation where I've got 2 or 3 different partners competing for the same deal. A lot of it has to do with, frankly, these guys here at TCG and the way they manage it. We technically do register an opportunity for our partner. It registers underneath TCG because we recognize them as a partner. Does that make sense? But if, look, these guys put through 1,400 quotes a month with us, just TCG alone. And I probably see a cross-pollination maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Okay. So, yeah.
Second question. Mm-hmm. Customer of mine has multiple locations, multiple sites. So when I approach them, I say, hey, do you want to get all these 20, 40 bills, or would you like to get one bill? They're going to say typically, well, is there an extra cost for that? So on a scale of packaging everything together, do I say it's about the same, a little bit more, a little less?
Good question. Depends upon the product. So, I'm just going to level with everybody in the room. Our concept is I can get you the same price, or maybe a little bit better, than what you can get with just about any carrier out there. I'll pay you more, right? Think about the 2X here versus a 1X or maybe a no X or a half of X is out there. We typically pay 4, maybe 5 percentage points more to TCG. So in your agent agreements with TCG, you're getting passed through more residual on the back end. So as it pertains to the partner, it makes sense. Add the project management piece to it, and I'll just share this with you real quick. Our PM piece boils down to something like this. I've actually done enough of studying on this to actually I can pull this number out. A typical fiber deal with a PRI on top of it, right? You maybe spend 25 hours, 30 hours of your own time invested in selling that opportunity with the end user customer. All right, now you book the order with the carrier. But now over the course of the next 90 to 120 days, or however long it takes that fiber to build out, you've got another 15 or 20 hours invested in that project manage it, because you're constantly chasing your tail trying to get information from the different service providers, where they're at with the install process, and I've got a hard, fast deadline with this customer. So the PM group for us pulls all that away. We basically only require a questionnaire form to be filled out after a sale. It takes you 10 minutes to do it. If you want a kickoff call, great, we'll get on a kickoff call and we'll do it. And then we send down weekly updates. You want to get calls every week with your partners? I'm sorry, with your with our PM teams? That's fine. But our concept is to pull you out of this, to bring more value to you. Then, since we manage the process from cradle to grave, at the time of install, our accuracy of orders at the time of install is about 99%, guys. It's rare that we ever have an issue with install where the customer, the tech, your guy's sitting out there, everybody's upset because it was supposed to take 10 minutes to port numbers, and 2 hours into it, we still haven't ported the numbers yet. I mean, if that happens, it's because we made a mistake, and that doesn't happen very often. So there's no charge for consolidating the billing, to answer your first question. But I will tell you, there are some carriers, and cable is one of them, where we don't have the same cable pricing that you can get from Spectrum or Comcast on a promo on the street. Because they're never going to give us the same price, because they don't want us cannibalizing their direct sales organization, which is exactly what we would do through the partner channel, and offer the same price for a better customer experience, better implementation experience, better back-end customer management experience than dealing with the cable rep who just sold it and is on to chase his next quota next month or her next quota next month. So we're a little bit higher on the cable. But the quid pro quo, guys, is basically this when it comes to cable, and that's the only area that we're really more expensive is cable, is I've got a covenant in my contract with most of the providers, including the cable providers, where they're going to guarantee dispatch within a certain number of hours. Usually it's 6, 8 hours, sometimes it's 4. We actually got a supplement to our service agreements that we will give larger multi-location customers like you're talking about, where we represent that in contract. We're guaranteeing we're going to have Comcast out there in 6 hours. We're guaranteeing we're going to have AT&T out there in 4 hours. For any network-related outage that is not a fiber cut. All right? 24/7, 365, as long as we can ascertain the customer is going to let the tech go in the door. We've got that ability. That's worth something to me. Because if I'll tell you a quick story. I was in Michigan last week, and I was meeting with a multi-location convenience store chain similar to a customer that Marty, who just walked out, has down here in South Florida. Had about 75 locations. All right. Their biggest challenge in dealing with the cable companies right now is that when they buy gas wholesale, they pay X for it. Let's just say they pay $2.40 for it. And so by the time you and I go to the pay to the pump, it's $2.45. They mark it up a nickel. The internet constantly goes down. Every time the cable goes down, they're 2-3 days out before Comcast shows up. Well, I got $250,000 of gas in my tank, underneath the ground that I paid $2.45. My competitors haven't lost their internet service yet. They empty their tanks. They go back to the wholesale, buy more. Price of oil and gas refinement 3 months ago was cheaper, cheaper that week. So now they're buying gas at $2.35. So now they've got gas, they're at $2.40 on the sign. He's at $2.45. He's got gas that's 2 weeks old. Somebody else is selling their gas for 5 cents less, and they're right across the street. He's still stuck with it. See what I'm saying? He has to actually reduce it down to his buy rate as a break even or a loss lever to get rid of it. All because that cable circuit was down for a couple of days. And with our ability to get it back up and running within 4 to 6 hours, or 6 to 8 hours, depending upon what level of classification of outage, what is that worth? Is it worth $15 more a month for your cable service with NHC? I think it is, because I might have just saved you $60,000 in gross receipts, because you don't have to have a sign on the door that says cash only, because the credit card machines are down because they're IP based. And we all know, I'm one of them, if I got cash only, I don't carry cash. I'm going down the street. And the next person, they can take my plastic. Go ahead.
And just to kind of do another point here, a real good benefit with NHC, especially when you're doing direct fiber or with broadband stuff. You don't have a rep calling in behind you after you sold the deal to your customer, saying, "Hey, we're going to upsell you," and then now you're losing the deal, right? On certain Lex and certain cable companies, they do that. Whereas NHC, it's very channel friendly. That's your deal. That's your customer. That's your solution.
Yeah, it's just like,
it's very protected. It's very good. They're excellent.
And I'll be honest with you. It's like these guys here. I'll let it out. To be honest with you, AT&T is our favorite provider. Everybody in this room knows it's worked with me. We've got a great symbiosis with those guys on the wholesale side, and they give us a ton of support, and we sell the hell out of their services, especially their Ethernet fiber. But to Phil's point is, when we secure that business, and we've been going around with TCG now, this is on year 4. So now we're at that point where we're seeing these 3-year contracts renew. We're not seeing AT&T's direct sales organization trying to poach them because it's a wholesale labeled account. Just like AT&T's got protected accounts, so you can't go into your enterprise class or government or whatever. Same kind of concept. So there's some security there in terms of putting the business with us. Yes.
So Jason, I'm going to give you an unsolicited reference. So I've been working with Jason on this. Exactly what he's talking about. I have clients where we're putting in fiber, coax in the same location. We're able to get it on one contract. The provisioning, the PM is phenomenal. Of course, payout's better. But the reality is the customer experience starts at the install, and that's what's important to me for longevity of the customer and keep them gooey and sticky and be able to, of course, add additional ancillary services as we go along. So the experience with NHC has been phenomenal.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, like I said, we're not the biggest carrier out there.
Response. I just want to say the response from him and his team is really, really good. In fact, sitting here, I have another opportunity that's already in the works while I'm sitting here.
Yeah, I mean, it's look, we don't have all the answers. We're not perfect, but I will tell you that it's kind of an old school approach way of doing business. Where if you need something, you make a phone call, you send somebody an email. I mean, as a partner, I was on the phone with somebody on the way up here, and I was talking about, them, just do me a favor, send an email to custservice@nhcgrp, custservice@nhcgrp. That's our customer service. I said, call me back in 10 minutes if they don't respond to it. Sure enough, within 5 minutes later, I get a phone call, yeah, I just heard from the customer service, they're going to handle it. We're not that big yet. And we're not going to be that big for a long time where we can't get out of our own way. We can't impact a customer experience. Because the one thing I will tell you about our company culture is this. You guys, since you're the face of the customer, right? You're in front of the client. You set the customer's expectation of what this onboarding experience is going to look like. So it's our responsibility to not only meet that expectation, but exceed it. So everything that we're about is about exceeding the expectation that you have of us, so that way you can show up in front of your customer as you intend to, as somebody who's bringing value to that organization, to that client carrier experience at a level they weren't able to get before you walk in the door. And so when you only sell through partners, like we do, we recognize that if we kick the can down the road with one of you guys, you're not going to sell for us anymore. That's just common sense. That's the way life works. So we're very sensitive in how we manage our partner relationships because we can't grow revenues without you guys. And if we're not basically exceeding expectations, you're not going to sell us very much anymore. And as we all know, this is a very incestuous business. A lot of us in this room know each other for years. Sometimes the label on our shirt changes, but at the end of the day, we're still here. So word gets out real quick if you start not being able to deliver as promised. And the one thing that we always try and do is make sure that if we promise it, we do deliver it. Okay. Any other questions? Well, listen, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. Good seeing everybody.